Hello, Phantom fans. Welcome into another episode of Ghost Stories presented by our friends at Dunkin. I am voice of the Phantoms, Matt Lipsack, reminding you that Ghost Stories not only is it available on YouTube, but is also available in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many other popular podcatchers out there. So subscribe today. Joining me on the show today, he was a member of the Cornell Big Red, but this upcoming season, he'll be skating with the Miami University Redhawks back in Ohio, the R from the BGR line from 2018 that went all the way to the Clark Cup final, 48 points in 58 USHL games from Surrey, British Columbia, Mike Regush. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Lipper.
So, Mike, you're leaving Cornell and going to Miami. What brought this about?
Yeah, so obviously the pandemic brought around a lot of different circumstances for different people. In my situation, our season got canceled pretty early in the year, and that was around early November. And I'm the kind of person who I kind of find it hard to not be pushing or challenging myself to try to accomplish goals. And I chatted with my parents and talked to a number of people close to me, and I said, realistically, I think I can get my degree done this year, finish it a year early, and look to go and do a graduate degree the following year and play somewhere and, get a grad degree paid for. So, yeah, it was just kind of a decision with people close to me, and it was due to the pandemic largely.
So you got your degree done in 3 years.
I did, yes, correct.
Awesome. Congratulations, man. I mean, at an Ivy League school, that is no small matter. I know you and I talked a couple times over the past couple of years that Ivy League classes are no joke, are they?
Yeah, it's funny. When we talked, that was my first semester there. I settled in pretty good. They probably got easier as you start to be there. A guy who was Brendan Smith, who was a senior my freshman year, he'd always tell me, Reegs, you got to work smarter, not harder. You got to work smarter, not harder. So you start to figure that out a little bit more, and that kind of goes a long way with basically being smarter with how you attack your classes. So started to straighten things out. Wasn't too bad by the end.
What was your degree in from Cornell, and what are you going to be studying at Miami?
So my degree was applied economics and management, concentrating in finance and accounting.
Okay.
And then my degree at Miami will be a Master of Accountancy.
Very nice. What were some of your favorite classes there at Cornell?
Yeah, so actually it's funny. I ended up not ever thinking I was going to go into accounting or have anything to do with accounting. And my first, this is a funny story, my first professor, the first accounting class you take is financial accounting. So we're sitting in the class, and the way it worked out, we had a lot of athletes in that class. Probably out of the 40 kids, we probably had, I would guess, 18 different athletes.
Wow.
And I was sitting with one of the guys on my team, and a guy who was the TA who ended up becoming buddies with later. The teacher goes, guy in his mid-50s, goes, Yuri, who's the TA, out of all the sports, what's the one sport I can't stand? I don't like any of the guys on the team. And he goes, I have to say hockey. And he goes, hockey players. I can't stand hockey players.
It's funny. I can't stand hockey players either. You guys are crazy.
We're like, great, here we go, right? We're thinking like it's accounting. Like this guy's going to be just riding us all semester. We're like, we're in trouble. And he goes, all right, so who's a hockey player? And he goes, you better tell me. I'm going to go on the roster. So we give the ginger, like, his hand slowly goes up. And anyway, it turns out we chat with him after class, and he actually was a hockey player himself. And funny enough, he was recruited to Miami and Ohio State, a number of other schools, but he blew his knee out in juniors. So he ended up playing club, but he knows hockey pretty well. He coaches the club team. And suffice to say, though, we were the guys, whenever someone was like a cold call, it would always be one of us. So we probably answered 5% of the questions, I would think, that semester, but it keeps you involved, right? Like you can't show up and not be ready. So he's a tax expert, so I ended up taking a lot of tax classes with him. That was what he worked for the Big Four in tax, and he opened his own firm actually in Cleveland before going in and being a professor. So anything with him, number of tax classes were great. Financial accounting was actually quite fun, just because he made the class really fun, and it forced you to come to class prepared. If you didn't know the material, you were in trouble because you couldn't just skate through that class and not not get called on basically any day. So it was good though. Anything with Professor John McKinley was great.
And any class that you just absolutely dreaded going to?
I mean, I've thought about this now, looking back. Not really. I'm sure there were ones in like while it was happening, I absolutely hated, like any 840s. My first semester on Monday was not good.
Right.
Like the actual classes material, Cornell does a good job kind of spreading out, and I will say forcing you to kind of take some different things, whether it's sciences or there's different classes you have to, even though it's not necessarily super specific to your degree, well, you filled some requirements. And at the time, you kind of sit there and you're like, oh man, like why am I taking these? And now looking back, like absolutely not. It was great. But yeah, there's definitely some getting up early and um, taking some of those requirement classes at the time. I would have probably complained, but now looking back, I'm glad. I'm pretty much glad with everything I took.
That's awesome, man. So you're going to Miami, going for the Masters, but you get to play with Matt Berry and Chase Gresock again. How great's that going to be? Reuniting the old line.
It still doesn't seem real because we haven't got back together yet. It's pretty unbelievable, to be honest, that that's how that played out. So it's going to be pretty cool. Chase and I are living together next year, so that'll be nice to live with someone I know. And no, it's going to be really exciting. I mean, I hope we still have the old magic, and but I can tell you, I can't wait for October 2nd against Ferris State. I've been texting. I'm probably getting annoying because we have a group chat. I text them every Friday how many weeks till we're at school, how many weeks till our first game. So last Friday it was 4 weeks till we're all at school, and 10 weeks till our first game. So I think they're going to tell me to stop texting that pretty soon. But I'm really excited, and I think they're excited too. I know the two of them are actually down in Oxford right now, training and skating together. So getting in their reps, and hopefully I can slot in and we can find that old magic, like I said.
I know we had Chase on the show last week, and he said it took him and Matt all of 2 shifts to start clicking again. So there's your bar right there. Is 2 shifts.
How about one? I'll do it in one. Gotta stay competitive with those two.
I mean, you're the centerman, right? You're the driving force there. So you gotta get your wingers in line, man.
That's what I tell myself at least.
As a collegiate hockey player, you touched on it a little bit, but how crazy have the last 2 seasons been? You guys were getting ready for conference tournament play in 20, and then you didn't even get a 2021 season. Ivy League shut down early.
Yeah. It's really unfortunate. I mean, you look back at our 1920 season, when the pandemic shut things down. We were actually ranked number one going in. It was, I mean, us in North Dakota had flip-flopped. I'm 99% sure we were one at that point. But 1, 2, whatever the case may be. Like we were poised to make a Frozen Four run. Really, really special group of guys, top to bottom. I mean, if you look at that Cornell team, we had so many good pieces in different places, and a lot of guys moved on now to play pro. But that's very difficult because you had left with a huge what if. So with that season, I mean, very tough. And then you end up going home. And then this year, just a bizarre year. I largely spent the year at home. I went to school for about maybe 6 weeks, and we're skating off campus 2-3 times a week. If you had a class at that time, you can't go. Not a ton of access to workout facilities. So I came home, and Canada was a lot more open at that point. Actually, it ended up kind of reversing, but I always had access to the rink and gym here, which was good. But yeah, it's been tough. It's been really tough, and I can tell you, it definitely leaves you, wondering about what ifs and how situations could have been different, and just really what could have been with a magical run we were having in our 1920 season. I mean, we started that season 10-0, so yeah, it just leaves you with a lot of what ifs, and I've learned to adapt and adjust. I think a lot of people have. I mean, people are pretty resilient, but it's definitely tough watching this year. And I know every Friday, Saturday, instead of playing, I was usually sitting in my room, had my computer connected to my TV, and was watching the Miami games. So wanted to be out there, and it was extra motivation for when you're training and skating, getting ready for next year.
Your teammate on that Cornell team, Jack Malone, came back to Youngstown this past season to put a nice cap on his junior hockey career. What was it like getting to skate with Jack for a year?
It's pretty cool. It was fun. It was fun seeing someone you knew from junior come to Cornell and get to play with them. It was interesting too, because I think for Jack, our 17-18 team, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit, was pretty loaded. So for him, he didn't have a huge role on that team, although he did have a big role he played, but he wasn't logging the kind of minutes you guys saw him log in the next 2 years he was at in Youngstown, right, where he kind of was the guy with Murray the following year, and then was at Cornell for a year and came back and was still one of the guys again this year. So when I got to see him come to Cornell, how much his game had blossomed and how much he had grown as a person, a player, was pretty cool to see that. So kind of step away for a year, and he's going to be great at Cornell when he goes back. But it was pretty cool. We actually roomed together a bit my sophomore year, so that season I was talking about, his freshman. I don't really have any great stories. We were pretty boring, but it was cool to be with someone from Youngstown and follow him. He's going to continue to grow and develop and be a great player.
Well, it's good that you guys were staying out of trouble, I guess, right? Making sure to keep your noses clean.
I guess so. It's unfortunate. It's good for us, I guess, but not good for the show in terms of stories. So sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I appreciate you trying though. So you mentioned you've been watching a lot of hockey. What'd you think of the Stanley Cup final?
You know what? It's funny. I actually skate with Brendan Gallagher a bit in the summer, and I was skating with him in like November and a bit of December before they left for the season. So I feel bad for him, and I think you want the Canadian team to at least put on a bit of a better performance, I would say, than they did. But Tampa's so loaded. That's such a remarkable group put together. I mean, in the Cap era, I'm not gonna make a mistake here to the best team, but they got to be up there for one of the best teams in the Cap era we've seen put together. So I know they were over the cap, and people are going to complain about that, but it was. I secretly probably wanted Vegas to go, because I think if Vegas had been firing on all cylinders, it probably would have been a closer series. But like I said, it's pretty remarkable to watch the group Tampa had, and I think that they're going to start to get a little bit dismantled here because of cap issues. But I enjoyed it. Honestly, I probably enjoyed the dominance of just how good that team is top to bottom, and obviously how good Vasilevsky is. So I still enjoyed it. A 4-1 series is a 4-1 series. What can you do?
Nothing you can do. So you're from Surrey, British Columbia. For those that don't know, that is just outside Vancouver. Just across the border, the NHL has put an expansion team in Seattle. Well, what do you think about there being a new team in the Pacific Northwest?
I love it. I hope to not exactly answer your question, jumps in this. I hope Seattle gets a basketball team back too.
Okay.
It's a pretty great city. So I hope with the renovations to Key Arena, they can now support a basketball team. I know out on the internet they've talked about Las Vegas Aces or something getting a basketball team, and then giving Seattle a basketball team and expanding the NBA to 32. So who knows if that'll happen? But I think any time you can add hockey, especially into a great market like Seattle, create a rivalry with Vancouver, it's going to be pretty cool. I think they'll do fine, even fan wise. I think people from Vancouver and stuff will travel down there once the border opens. So I love that they have a team. It'll be pretty cool. I'm glad the NHL expanded out west, and I think it'll be good for hockey as a whole out on the West Coast.
And any thoughts on the expansion draft? What do you think about the roster that Ron Francis has put together?
It's funny. People won't admit this, but I remember when Vegas drafted their team, no one thought they were going to be good. Everyone was like, they won't be very good. They'll have Fleury. They have a few guys. And I know probably people think Seattle's in an even worse spot, but there was no one saying Vegas was going to make the Stanley Cup final that's that year. So I'm going to hold my judgments to see how free agency shakes out, and then kind of just what happens this year. I know we mentioned this quickly before, and a couple of my buddies says their division's not great right now. There's a lot of rebuilding anyway. So maybe them going young maybe they looked at it and said, well, these teams are up and coming. If we just sell out to take old guys, we're going to be terrible in 3 years. So who knows? I think Ron Francis is a smart guy. The seeds he laid in Carolina have obviously had a lot of success. So it's right now, I think we'd all say they left a lot of talent on the table, but like we said, in that salary cap era, it's handcuffing a lot of people. In a flat cap, it'll probably help them in the long run. So we'll reserve judgment till we chat maybe next time this year and see how the season goes.
And if you were Matt Beniers and you knew the NHL draft was going on, would you have sent your general manager to voicemail?
That's pretty funny. I don't know. I wonder what was the story on that? What happened?
All I saw was the clip of Ron Francis. He had the phone on speaker because he knew it was being recorded, and then just the voicemail message coming up, and just the entire room busts out into laughter.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to know what I want to hear the other side of that story. I mean, maybe
I would love to hear the Matt Beniers side. I would love to hear it.
That was pretty funny. I saw that. I mean, no, I wouldn't, but I haven't been in that situation, so who knows what happened.
I mean, unless he was on the phone with his agent or something, right?
Yeah, maybe he got nervous and hit the wrong button. I don't know.
So Mike, you were a big Game of Thrones fan. What did you think of the series, and are we ever going to see Winds of Winter in print?
Yeah, I mean, saying I'm a big Game of Thrones fan after the way it ended, I'll answer that way. I'm not as much of a big Game of Thrones fan.
That's fair. That's fair. The ending wasn't great.
The ending was pretty tough. So I'm gonna I'll answer it that way. I was pretty disappointed with the ending. My brother and I watched a lot of that series together. So we would even, like, if we were in different places, which we were for a lot of it, we'd FaceTime and like hit play at the same time. But yeah, I was not thrilled with the way it ended. They did my guy Jon Snow kind of dirty with his character.
Yep.
I said to my brother and I were saying this, it almost would have been better if they just left him dead. Like he didn't really accomplish. You thought he was going to kill the Night King. Arya did that. The way he killed Daenerys was pretty like cowardly, like just stabbing her in the back when he goes in. Like, it's just, they did him really dirty, and I didn't love that. So there's a lot of plot threads they kind of started and then just didn't really play out. Just went completely in different directions. So I guess you could say they subverted expectations. That's what they love to do. But some of them, they probably should have given you some of the plot threads. So I don't know. Didn't love it. Will we see wins win? Probably eventually. Don't you think? I mean, what do you think about that? I would say yes, but
I mean, maybe 2023. Hopefully, another 18 months or something.
It'll be pushed back for sure.
I know. We've only been waiting 6-7 years now. What's a couple more, right?
What's another year and a half or two? So,
you are listening to Ghost Stories, the official podcast of the Youngstown Phantoms. You might be watching on YouTube, or remember, we are available in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and many other popular podcatchers. Subscribe, leave a review, leave a like. All of it helps the show. And again, the show is brought to you by our friends at Dunkin. Loving the Dunkin here, Mike. All right, so you were a member of the 2017-2018 Youngstown Phantoms that went all the way to the Clark Cup final. What do you remember about your time in Youngstown? What's your favorite memory of being with the Youngstown Phantoms?
It's funny. I was thinking about what my favorite memory is. There's so many little things you take for granted, I think, when you're there. And then you look back and it kind of, the picture as a whole is, you realize how lucky you were and what a special group it was. So I would say probably just little things like spending time on the bus and those long road trips that people think are horrible in Youngstown. It's pretty fun, actually. Showing up on game days was great. I was usually the first person there. I'd love to get there early. But probably the best memory was when we actually won the Eastern Conference Finals and then we were going to the Clark Cup. That was pretty cool as a group. I remember we won at home, so that was pretty cool too. I would probably say that was the best. And I also remember there was this one memory where they put Matt, Chase, and I together, and we had a run. I'm trying to think the weekend. It was Cedar Rapids. We played well, and then I think there was the Dubuque weekend. I remember the three of us kind of went like, maybe we should put the league on notice. Like, maybe we can make some noise here, make a run here. And I just kind of remember that was like the turning point for
I don't want to say you didn't believe it before. It was like I really was like, oh, we can actually really do something here. Like our team's really coming together here. So um, that was probably that little moment wasn't really that was my point. It wasn't really a big cataclysmic win or but it was this moment where we kind of looked at each other like, oh, we can really do something here. So um, yeah, that was probably it. But there was a lot of special little moments when you're at Youngstown.
So the Youngstown fans, the USHL even can't exist without our billet families. They do so much by taking the hockey players in. Can I ask you to give a shout out to your billet family real quick? Maybe share a quick story.
Yeah, the her chicks were great people, and they took us in and made sure we looked after, and obviously cared for when we were away from home. So you're still a bit younger at that point. Um, I remember for us at their house, we would have absolute just wars of mini hockey games. So the kids jumped in sometimes, and Matt always let the younger ones score. I don't know if I was as nice, but I remember they were great. They were really great people, and I think they're continuing to bill it. But yeah, they were great people, and can't say enough good things about them.
So Mike, you're not above like crushing a young kid's soul to let him win in mini hockey. You're not above that.
Yeah, I'm not. I probably like I borderline of a competition issue. I have a really tough time like letting people win, or if you beat me fair and square, it'll bug me too. But at least you won. I'm not big on just letting people have it. So maybe I don't the way I always says I don't really have a good off switch. Um, the guys that work with in the off season always laugh at me because if we're playing 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 or whatever scrimmages, I don't have a good off switch for like letting stuff go even in off season scrimmages. So maybe something I can work on. But yeah, I'm definitely not above that.
Speaking of letting things go, it has been 3 years since the 2018 Clark Cup final. You still angry?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if angry. I think disappointed is a better word.
Okay.
And I think it still stings looking back on it. You wish it had been a different outcome, but it is what it is. You move on. You use it as a motivation, another log in the fire for when you're doing extra cardio or training or whatever.
What did Fargo do so well against your line in that series? You guys came in averaging over 3 points a game as a unit. You got held to 4 points in 4 games.
It's funny. I thought about that too. Obviously, that's something you think about. You realize how stifled you were. I don't think I had a point in that series. Um, and obviously in 4 games is what it is. But one thing, there was a lot of things that hurt us in that series, and I think most notably what Fargo did well was their goalie played out of their mind. It wasn't like we all of a sudden weren't creating or weren't getting chances. It wasn't even weren't even getting good chances. I just their goalie played really well, and for some reason, Chase and I were Matt, Chase and I just didn't score, and when you guys aren't scoring, um, you're obviously not. Those points aren't going to come. So I remember that we had chances though, and I remember we were getting quality chances. It was Strauss man stood on his head, right? So um, that what can you do in that situation, right? You run into a hot goaltender. I would say that's probably the only time all year we played a goalie and went, okay, this guy's actually matching Ivan. That was the only time I think I said that in our entire year. Whereas Ivan was not outplayed by any means. Ivan played great that series too, but I remember like, oh, this guy can actually match Ivan. Um, so I would say that's probably what happened to us.
I mean, you're not wrong. Ivan Prozatev and Strauss Mann both put on an absolute show in that series. Just I can even agree with you. There were a couple times where I saw you go to shoot the puck, and I started to reach for the goal horn because I thought, okay, that's in the net, and then it's in Strauss Mann's glove, and you're absolutely right. He played a great series, and unfortunately, fans just couldn't find a way to get a couple more pucks past him. I mean, Ivan didn't let in more than 3 goals in any game the entire series.
Yeah, it's tough for hey buddy. Um, it's
Hi.
tough.
We're joined by my son Jonathan here on the show. Buddy, can you go back upstairs so Daddy can finish?
I'll get my mom's
Okay, buddy.
Okay.
Turn in the
Uh,
cold.
we
Mommy, turn in the cold, Daddy.
Buddy,
There's a coat in
yes, buddy, can you go upstairs so daddy can finish? That'll be done in a couple minutes, okay? I love you. little treat there for those of you watching on YouTube. Little sneaky guy snuck down here to my office. Mike, I apologize for that. So that
Okay.
that 17-18 team. Let's dig up a little dirt on your teammates. So you mentioned those long bus rides. Who was snoring the loudest?
See, this is an issue when you talk about snoring. It might have been me.
Oh no.
Because I'm a big sleeper on the bus. So
Okay.
I don't remember everyone else snoring, which means like if you can't point the finger at someone else, it's probably you. And
Okay.
like there's some funny photos of me out there. I don't know. You could probably dig them up from like Barry or someone, like me with a blanket and earplugs in, and like I was pretty bad. Big pillow like tucked into a corner of a seat. So it was probably me, to be honest. But
So Greaser said that there was often a battle of who was sleeping on the floor and who was sleeping on the seats. So were you a guy sleeping on the chairs?
yeah, I can sleep on the seats fine. So I usually got a seat. I was fine, and I just kind of like lie up against the wall.
Okay.
So it wasn't too tough. We actually had a sleeper a decent amount that time.
Okay.
There was a decent amount of time that year, so that wasn't bad either. So on the really long trips.
Who always had their nose in a book, doing their homework, studying, who was always getting their work done?
So unless I'm missing one of our high school students, but Malone, Kuntar, and Hall were all committed to Ivy League schools.
Uh-huh.
Cooney obviously ended up going to Boston College now and has been doing great. But I think I'm going to say maybe none of them were that bad about talking about school. So
Okay.
maybe all three of them were just so smart that they didn't actually really study and they just showed up and got straight A's. So I'm gonna let them off the hook and say the three of them were just so smart they didn't study. But one guy who did study a lot was Michael Joyo, who's taken some courses, and I heard a lot about the courses from him. So
Okay.
I'm putting him on blast and saying I think Joyo was maybe the most studious.
And Mikey having a great career over at Western Michigan. Who is the last guy off the ice for practice every night? I've heard Needham. Can you confirm that?
Who I'm gonna give a shout to is Ivan. Ivan was, I'm gonna use this word affectionately, insane. I remember, I don't know any goalie that would do this. So this is the story I tell about Ivan in terms of his work ethic. He would play 3 games of rebound on game days. Now, I've played with goalies who are starters who don't drop on game days for pregame skate. They're like, yeah, just hit me in the gloves. I'm not going down. And then when they go down, they just stay in their butterfly for a few shots, and then they're the first one off the ice. He would stay out there and play 3 full games of rebound. I mean, 2, because he won a lot. We didn't beat him that often. He was really good. But for any of the fans that don't understand what that means, is basically it's an absolute like exhausting game for a goalie. And he would play it 3 times, and you have 7 to 9 guys stand around. You shoot a puck off the goalie. If you score, you get a point. If the goalie covers it or it hits the boards, the goalie gets a point. And you get 1 pass every time you hit the goalie. So the goalie ends up doing a lot of side-to-side work, quick feet, and it's really tiring for the goalie. He played 3 games of this going into a game where he'd be playing the whole game. I'll probably never have a goalie that will ever do something like that again. So, I mean, that kind of testament to him. And I know he obviously, for people who know, he made his NHL debut with the Coyotes this year, and
Yep.
was not surprised. His work ethic and ability was second to none. So I'll give him the shout out. But Needham was a really hard worker too, absolutely. So he can be tossed in. There's a good pick, but I had to tell people that one about Ivan.
Anyone running late to practice, getting ready to jump on the ice? Oh no, this guy's not here. Everybody's gonna get in trouble. Anybody running late?
No, you know what? Everyone's pretty good. I guess I'll ask, did Chase tell a story about what happened with his car the one time?
No, tell us, please.
So coming to the game, this is the only late story. Guys were pretty good in our team actually about being on time. We didn't really have a lot of issues with that. But I mean, that's probably a testament to why we had such a good group. But Chase is coming to the game and he stops to get gas and a black tea. He drinks iced tea before the game. So
Okay.
He stops to get his tea. He goes inside, and for some reason, he leaves his keys in his car. And his phone's in the car. And 2 guys jump in and literally stole his car and drove away with his car right before the game. So we're sitting around like, where's Chase? And Matt and we're already playing on a line. So we're like, where's Chase? Where's Chase? Like, is he gonna come? Like, what's going on? We go for warm up upstairs, we play sewer ball, we do our dynamic warm up, we come down. Chase still isn't here. He walks in. I'm in full, I mean, I'm usually one of the first people dressed. I'm in full gear, and like Chase walks in and he's clearly rattled, like just like absolutely. He ends up playing. I think he scored that night too. You'll have to get this story from him because I'm pretty sure he scored the night he did this too. But his car got stolen, phone got stolen, had to call from like the gas station attendance line. So ended up getting picked up and went to the game, but like what a gong show. So that was only like, that was a late story where like you wouldn't believe, and he ended up getting his car.
Wow.
They found it for somewhere in some abandoned, some cul-de-sac or something. So he did end up getting his car back. So that was something. Not that obviously later, a couple 3 to 5 days later. So, but that was the only late story I could think of, which was pretty funny.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing. So we're getting ready to wrap things up. What are the plans for the rest of the summer? Getting ready to head for Oxford. What any troubles coming up crossing the border or anything?
Not too much. I have to reapply for my F1 student visa to get for you guys to let me into the country. So if you can put a good word into any border guards,
Okay. So I'll see what I can do.
But yeah, just that, and then the basic stuff of getting ready that everyone goes through, making sure you have all the stuff you need as far as clothes and some of the stuff. I'll be sending the car out there, so just packing the car up with some of the essentials you need. And a lot of my stuff is already out there for stuff I had at Cornell. I moved it there in May. So yeah, just last 4 weeks of training here, less than 4 weeks now because it's August 20th, so it's 27 days. So just kind of crossing the T's and dotting the I's and getting ready to go play some hockey again. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, Mike Regush of the Miami Redhawks, thank you so much for joining us on the show, bud.
All right, thanks for having me, Lipper.
All right, Phantom fans, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Ghost Stories that was presented by our friends over at Dunkin. Remember, we're available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many other popular podcatchers. Stay tuned. Like I've mentioned, we've got some things in the work, trying to line things up with former Phantoms captain and current defenseman at Michigan State, Aiden Gallagher. Been talking to former Phantoms broadcaster Everett Fitzhugh, who works for the Seattle Kraken now, trying to get him on the show. Love to talk to Phantoms head coach Brad Patterson, new associate head coach Andy Contois, and our two new co-general managers, Ryan and Jason. We'd love to have them on the show as well. So stay tuned for some great episodes upcoming. I'm Voice of the Phantoms, Matt Lipsack. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Sound out. Fade to black.